go to my chair. See you guys later. Hey, Neil. How's it going? Going good.
Steve, do we have our other two members?
We have one.
Hey, Dee, this is Kelly. I'm on.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Randall.
This is Randall. I'm on.
All right, there's 8 present then. I think we can begin. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone in attendance. I see that's always in the minutes, so maybe I should actually say it at some point. This is the August 25th meeting of the Riverfront Improvement Commission. I think the first order of business is approval of the minutes from July 28th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No?
Aye.
Okay. I'm going to say that's unanimous. Under finance, it's the approval of the disbursements. Steve, are you going to work from there?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have to do anything to turn your mic on? You can.
I'm hot now.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the disbursements?
So moved.
Is there a second? A second. Are there questions? Seeing no questions from anyone here, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same
Aye.
sign of no? All right, they're approved unanimously. Okay, go ahead, you want to ask those?
Okay. I got you.
I don't know which one it is.
It's, you're on. Go ahead.
Steve, on the Front Street parking, it's just a little parking across the street. Are we using that, or is the contractor using that?
So there are 20 spaces in what we call the CB&Q parking lot that are rented to Front Street on a month-to-month basis. And I think it comes out to be $265 a month. And contractors are also using part of it. It's, but very quickly here, it's just been out, I think this council cycle, the project is being let for that parking lot to be enhanced, we'll call it, redone, resurfaced, but even a little bit more than just resurfacing. And so that project will still, will get underway probably within about a month or so. And I'm working with Front Street. They'll have to find some on-street parking and some other options, and they're aware of that for the time period that the duration that project lasts.
I guess my question really is Front Street Brewery being billed for something that they don't really have use for?
No, they want 20 spaces, parking spaces that are right along River Drive, and they pay for those. The rest of the lot is sort of a first come, first serve, and currently some contract use as well.
And then my other question is really just understand how this billing table gets assembled. And if you go to, it's the Blues property.
Okay.
And in there, it shows $383 all the way across, which is correct. And then tonight, if we approve the new contract, it goes up to $480 or something like that.
But it's actually going to go down.
Yeah. Who actually changes the billing table? You?
I do.
Okay.
I update it after the fact, and then I communicate by way of any agreement I send on to finance, as well as we have in the city, a real estate manager. And I give copies of signed, executed documents, lease agreements, and renewals to each of them. Specifically in finance, they need that because that's how then they create a automatic monthly billing request.
So what that does to me, it confirms one more item of work that is in your job description. Okay. That's all. That's good.
We'll move on to the next item, which is leases. I think the discussion there was the Mississippi Valley Blue Society, so we saw this lease at the last meeting. We discussed it. It's actually a decrease they requested, given that they've had no
That's
way of raising revenue for this upcoming fiscal year. Can you just go over the dates of that lease so we know
Yes.
what it covers again before we have a motion?
Yep, absolutely. So it's a 12-month, a 1-year agreement. Typically, we've done 2-year agreements or 3-year, but traditionally with Mississippi Valley Blues Society, it's been 24 months. This is up for renewal October 1st and will go through September 30th of 2021. Prior to that time, we'll be able to visit with them and see how the financial condition looks. But at this point, it's about, give or take, about $100 a month decrease in rent for office space on the second floor of Union Station. And so I won't say there was a threat of leaving, but I think that given all that's going on and there is some of that competition that does exist, I will just prepare us all that I think this year, in all likelihood, many of the lease renewals you see are going to attempt to be probably held flat. Just because that's some of the feedback, and frankly, I think we all are aware of the likelihood of that just being a good practice. And I think then, we'll do a couple year agreements, perhaps not any really of the 3-year nature, 2 or 3 year, we'll see how that goes. I say that because the next one up is a 3-year, but I'll explain why. And then we'll just kind of, we'll factor that into it, and hopefully we're in a much better place for increases at that point. Okay.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve this lease? Bill moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Neil seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Oh, it's unanimous. Note that Pat has abstained
Okay.
with the conflict. All right, Steve, let's go through the Nestle Purina gravel lot.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a renewal of an existing lease that we have for semi-parking. And just to familiarize yourself, if you aren't already, it's along West River Drive across from the city cemetery, okay? So it's rather large, it's gravel. And we have had, I think for the last 3 years, Nestle Purina in there. This is for another 3-year renewal and holding at the same rate that they currently are. And the reason is as I was talking with my contact there, Rich Boyer, he was able to indicate to me that post 2019, they put in upwards of $50,000 into that lot because of some wash away. Nothing that they ever requested reimbursement or back from us, but some improvements that brought it up to a place that they wanted it to be, need it to be. It's full capacity most of the time. And so I think that it seems only fair to kind of hold the line at this point with a decent rate, the current rate that they pay each month for that parking lot, essentially.
Are there questions from the commissioners?
And this is their first look at it.
I don't have a question. I just would comment that I think it's noticeable some of the improvements to make the lot that the value for everybody. Good benefit to maintain the spot.
If that's Kelly, I think we can't hear you very well. Do you mind trying that again?
Can you hear me better
Yeah.
here? Does this work better?
Excellent.
Okay, I was going to say, I actually thought it's noticeable, the improvements that they made, and I appreciate the fact that we have a tenant there who's maintaining the area that way, so I think there's real value to us in continuing that as a positive relationship.
Thank you. And so we will consider this for action next meeting. It doesn't actually, the term doesn't actually begin until the first of the year, but we're just being proactive with it.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so they did not let you know in advance that they were changing that?
Well, I'll just say, I didn't know of any, there were no problems expressed, in real time of that flooding. But when I began to talk with Rich here recently, he made mention of the amount of money that they had invested in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Steve, you mentioned it's across from the city cemetery. Well, who's parking to the east of there? You know where the casino used to have that parking? Between there and what was it, ABC or something?
Yeah. So we have a couple private parcels there in between, but then what you're talking about, I'll characterize as the Marquette at River Drive improved lot and then an unimproved lot. And I think what you're referencing is the unimproved lot, which is just 2 buildings away from this lot. And that is city contractor for the 1930s sewer. They're taking and crushing and using that space for some of this work. And we had talked about that in here before that commenced. But yeah, that's a space that they are using and are in need of. Yeah. But by the way, since I won't leap ahead about Marquette Street. I'll wait until the Canadian Pacific Railroad crossing time period on the agenda.
All right, so
Anything
we'll
else?
see that next month, right?
Yes.
For approval. That takes us down to projects, and I think the very first one, actually, we're going to hand that over.
Yes, so Zach is here with us today, Zach Peterson with Public Works. You all are familiar with him. He is going to provide an update on River Heritage Park. This is not to steal his thunder, but this is in this fiscal year that just started in July. There is a $1 million CIP project from the city council for, and he'll itemize this, but essentially for extension of the river walk and shoring up the wall in this area. And so basically moving upstream from the middle part of River Heritage Park to our boundary. So Zach, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. Everybody here okay? Talking through here so I'm not deflecting spittle everywhere because nobody wants that. So it's been quite a while since we checked in on River Heritage, and fortunately with the fiscal year 2021 we're in now. As Steve mentioned, we have an allocation of funds to get the next phase going. Maybe. I don't know. It should be flipping. Do you have to control the PowerPoint's just kind of stuck? Okay. Was that it? Was it just kind of? Okay. Technical difficulties. We just had it working. Give us 1 second. Oh, we're locked up. Oh, there we go. So this project has been going on, it's labor of love. I've been with the city about 10 years, and one of the first projects I ever worked on here with the city is the site planning and program for River Heritage. We had an extensive public input session with it, and just the overriding theme that came about for the future of this park was the historical element to it. Just that red circle there represents a quarter-mile walking area. And within that quarter mile, you arguably have some of the most important historic events that have happened on a local and regional level. And from the signing of the Black Hawk Treaty, which happened roughly at 5th and Farnham, to Robert E. Lee doing a survey of the Rock Island Rapids out just offshore there. Because of the rapids findings, it was an ideal place to put a bridge. So the first bridge across the Mississippi went roughly in that spot and traverses where the park is now. And because of that, the argument that took place between the steamboat operators in the railroad industry and the Hurd versus Rock Island Railroad, yeah. Abraham Lincoln came to prominence as the lawyer representing that. So, so much there. Ideally, you know, that the park is set up as a legacy for future generations. It's intended to be a learning landscape where you can take school kids theoretically and learn about why we're here. And these events, the sequence of events that happened, basically narrate the story of the founding of Davenport and all the key players involved with it. So the goal moving forward is to commemorate these key features through the landscape, basically. And what you see there is the master plan that came about. So you can see that. So commemorating ideas like the first bridge crossing and working with River Action, having a replica span going across there with a mound feature which highlights all the key view sheds that you see along there and an interpretive narrative showing that. The site unfolds as a metaphor in terms of the F.E. Afton reaching this obstacle with the mound as a barrier to navigation on the river and how that unfolds, that story through, once again, interpretive. On this end, commemoration of the Black Hawk Treaty moving forward, ideas of commemorating the Rock Island Rapids through an interpretive play area, and overall the site lends itself as a metaphor for the key four regions of the Mississippi as it unfolds. So construction timeline, we've gone through a heck of a lot in 10 years. So this is what it looked like when I came on with the city of Davenport. It was builders, sand and gravel. Quad City Times had a building there. And of course the landmark grain bins that were there. And when our master planning took off, Steve negotiated getting that site cleared. So between 2009 and 2012, we had a blank canvas to put all this on. 2014, the Rotary Club came on board to donate a gazebo structure as part of their centennial celebration. So their generous donation made that happen and coming on board with that. And then about 2015, 2016, through supplemental grant funding and CIP, we were able to tie it all together, having a, what happened there, Steve? Is it? You can see it there. Is it? So somehow the desktop's showing right now. That's the second presentation. I think you're showing the desktop, so I don't know if there's. Should I minimize this? Yeah, I think you can. If I can, but I can't even get. See, like, see it's out there, but I can't do it on my screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't. See, I'm controlling this, but it's not showing up on my screen to be able to minimize what I need. Think I need to. Yeah, that wasn't working. No. So, where's the? It's just showing your desktop underneath there, nothing else. It needs to be showing the application it's on. So it's a function of how you're sharing your screen. Yeah. Jerry's still around. Well. On screen of the options. I don't know what it says. How it's shared.
Randall and Kelly, can you hear me? Hello? Maybe we lost them.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
now.
you can hear me, okay.
I couldn't for a long time.
Yeah, we're,
Yeah, you guys muted out a while.
what? We're having a little problem with the screen. All of a sudden, we can't project onto the screen. And so we may lose you with what we're attempting to do here. So I just call back in. Sorry for that, but just call back in a second.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
No, I don't even know.
Hey, Steve, this is Jerry.
Oh, hi, Jerry. Yeah. So-
Hi,
Go ahead.
unplug the left side cord from the laptop and try plugging it back in. And that should bring if the screen went black on you, that should hopefully help solve it.
The what color one?
No, we're just seeing the desktop.
The USB or the input?
Yeah. No, all we see is the desktop and no apps on the screen currently.
We were in PowerPoint and then it just all of a sudden, without really us touching anything, we were not seeing the presentation any longer on the projected screen. And then I don't have mouse capability on my laptop. I can configure on the screen, but I can't even minimize or close something out on my laptop.
Okay, well, that is new to me. So yeah, you might just have to shut the computer down and try
So
again.
does this go there?
Yeah, I think that one is.
I've never had that happen.
So we're gonna try something, and we don't know what we're gonna do, so.
Do you on the cord on the left and plug it back in?
Is the USB one or the media one?
Right,
No, on the left-hand side,
Yeah.
it has like a gold ring kind of around it. It's the thick, like lots of mini prongs.
oh, this one. It's the locked one? No, that's,
Maybe, the one that comes out of the desk that connects to, the big one that's behind the crest on screen.
I think she means it.
The one on the left side of the laptop, that's not a USB cord.
It's gotta be this one. All right, and then put it back in?
Well, that might get, yeah, that would be the only solution that I would know how
unless, otherwise your computer locked up.
Yeah, I think that, I do have that capability now, so hold on, let me see.
Cycled out.
But how do where is that on here?
I think
Have I lost it?
I think PowerPoint Home, so if you can remove that.
I need to minimize this. How do you minimize?
Well, at least you got a mouse on your computer.
I know, oh, there we go. I was trying to, where are you at? Right here? No, that's him. What do you, is this yours? Right up here? Yeah, okay.
That's the one.
I'm gonna restart it and see if we can get it to load. But we're not seeing it still. So we can see the presentation on the laptop, but not still on the screen. Do I need
Is
to
the screen turned on, or does it look like the screen's not turned on anymore?
stop sharing? We want to share, don't we?
Stop sharing for now. Pull that off. There you go. Now reset.
That's your screen, the stop sharing, I think that's your screen to go to.
Yeah, it
Share
is.
it again. There you go.
And then it's this,
There you go.
but it didn't.
But why is
That,
it? It's
now
only
it,
showing the
now it
desktop.
shows that on there, but doesn't show it on the screen, in the room, in chambers, still.
Okay, so that's a computer setting, which I don't know the shortcut on a PC, but you want to mirror you can mirror your
There we go. What did you do?
screens. It might,
I started the PowerPoint and it just showed up.
Okay,
Can people at home see that?
good to go?
okay, we're back up. We're ready to go. Sorry about that.
Awesome.
Might happen again,
Nope,
because we're not quite sure.
okay, I'm listening, you're good.
Okay, we're rolling. We'll just zip through these now. Who cares? Okay, 2012, 2014, 2016, this is what's called phase 2. So the Riverwalk first phase started, parking lot and that. And you can see off on the northeast side, we had benefit of, this is when Veterans Memorial Parkway started. And we had combining efforts to get clean fill installed on site for the future preparation of the future phase landform. So in 2017, not much has changed, but all the fill activities were in. So it brings us to 2019 with the flood, and you can see how the park behaves in this circumstance. And of course, our friends at the Canadian Pacific Railroad elevated the track, so that kind of put us in a little bit of a conundrum here as far as how to move forward with the project. The first proposal from CP Rail was actually to extend a drive aisle all the way over to 4th Street and tying in with that. And to do so would have took away from a lot of the integrity of the master plan. And not only that, there were serious conflicts between that and the traffic patterns heading on to 4th there. So we said, guys, this we put a lot of effort in this master plan. We hate to see it blown because of this track raise. And so they came back with a compromise plan, which I think works pretty well. It keeps the integrity of the master plan together. So what you see here, and I drove by the site on the way here, it's actually under construction right now, is a right-in, right-out configuration. It's not ideal from the standpoint of traveling west and getting in. So you have to, if you're traveling westbound, you probably have to go on to 4th Street, down Leclerc, and back in. So we'll have to direct with signs to get there. But it's more or less a glorified off-ramp to get up to the top here, and then leaving the park, almost a deceleration lane, merging into River Drive. But it keeps the master plan intact, and we can move forward from there. So what's being built right now is this configuration with T, hammerhead for tour buses and that kind of thing, and also navigation for emergency vehicles in and out of there. So in terms of our work plan, certain things have set the bar for the direction we need to go. Obviously, this is a many-year plan, 20, 30-year master plan. And in terms of getting a build out, there's going to be flexibility in the way it's built out. So this is the way the site looked earlier this year, 2020. And here's the docking, or here's our work plan. What's precipitating this round of improvements is basically the commitment from American Cruise Lines and Viking Cruise Lines to dock at River Heritage Park moving forward. So they're setting the standard for how we approach site design from this point. So at this time, there's 2 straight stretches between bends in the Riverwalk that work really great to get dock facilities in there. Dock 1 will be American Cruise Lines down by the existing gazebo, and then part of our future scope, Viking Cruise Lines up there. I'm also keeping a placeholder here because I think it's important moving forward to not dismiss the potential for the site to be a potential channel cat dock. Being able to have an access to downtown Davenport would pay serious economic dividends in terms of extra dollars and that, getting people down there. So leaving that as a gap, as a placeholder, is kind of the strategy there to be able to pop that in the future, should circumstances warrant it. So moving on, we also have this opportunity with the ongoing railroad negotiations. Iowa American Water has also been in discussion with the folks from CP Rail. And since CP Rail is in a, quote, giving mood, so to speak, they've been able to negotiate a sleeving under the railroad right-of-way to install a water main, which is key to bringing water to our site. So as part of this work plan, we now have the opportunity here to get underneath the railroad tracks, and part of this project scope will likely include getting water and water service lines to both of these proposed docking gates, and as well as run a main roughly right along the bike path parallel to it for a future tie-in up by Oneida Landing and get that loop structure through there. It benefits Iowa American. They're excited about this project, and we'll probably be tripping the trigger on that one pretty soon. So how it all kind of folds together in terms of the work plan is the construction of the Great Lawn. So here's a relatively low-cost amenity that we can use the existing dirt on site. Not all of it, though, for those that are curious about moving into the future, but elevating that lawn feature to where you're up more and not looking up at a Riverwalk, but you're more at that level to where you can actually see over the fence and into the water below. Enhancing the entrance by finally putting in the vehicle turnaround to where tour buses can come in and drop off passengers and load passengers from the respective docks. Auxiliary dirt will be formed up here for the building of the future landform phase. Another huge part of this is the cosmetics seawall repair that is essential to get this project forward. If you've had a chance to walk the site past the existing Riverwalk, the seawall deteriorates considerably once you get up in that area. And by this exercise, we're going to make it look pretty to where it has, like right now, there's no structural integrity to put a Riverwalk next to it. So making that nice and new, working with the Corps to get the kevels and those kind of anchors in place would be part of the scope. Another opportunity as a potential for this, although it's not what was advertised as part of the CIP, but there's a way to get this in, is previous iterations of the plan and previous scopes, we've looked for ways to get a drinking fountain and restroom complex to the site to work with the rotary gazebo. And now, with the water mains being installed here, we now have that possibility. So it's all money, right? But if we can make that work within the budget, that's kind of a nice value added on that we'll be working with. Another benefit, bonus, is this by including another temporary access path to the Riverwalk extension, which will be part of this. The loop around the Great Lawn actually figures out to be close to a quarter mile. So it's like, that's kind of a nice little bonus. If we round that off, all of a sudden you have a passive quarter mile track, so to speak, and you can do laps 4 to a mile, and you can make markers accordingly with that. So that was just kind of one of those total fluke things that really worked out. In terms of moving forward, there's kind of a sketch of the entry concept that we're currently working on in terms of vehicles coming in, through the entrance, room to drop off and pick up passengers. But the backdrop would be a park sign with a decorative wall feature and planting beds in there. Right now, there's an existing dedication plaque rock that is right here. It can be moved just slightly off to the side with a stacked stone wall backdrop. Plantings behind it to create a backdrop as well. Nice aesthetic feature as you enter the park. There's also potential up in this little kind of throwaway corner to integrate some of the previous wayfinding signs, regional wayfinding signs in terms of, you've seen those Riverway kiosks and that kind of thing. We could have a specific one for River Heritage Park in that location that would kind of advertise where the park's going, what the idea is behind it before we really get into the whole interpretive signage element to it moving forward. And that's just a generic little sketch of a potential logo. The river kind of forms a nifty little train engine, and then the Heritage kind of forms a steamboat. So they're I'm not a graphic designer, but a way to hire somebody who knows what they're doing to maybe tease that out a little bit further. And the notion with, these visitors coming to our area and this jazzed up entry to it kind of brings forth the prominence of completing the Black Hawk Treaty monument as part of it. Here's a concept that we did a few years back about what it might be. It's kind of envisioned in theory is the opposite of what the St. Louis Arch is in terms of natives looking back across at their former homeland and that kind of thing, taking on that approach. In order to execute this correctly, it's going to take a lot of dialogue with the Sauk tribe, the Meskwaki tribe, and so I've initiated some discussions with some of these tribal leaders, but they're the ones that are going to, I envision it, leading it and ensure that it's done respectfully and not anything that's not respectful for that matter. So, I mean, this is just a concept of what that might look like in terms of like a tribe looking over their homeland and that kind of thing, or taking it one step further, more of an artistic look. I love this sculpture. What if that were like Native Americans lined up there? It's almost like here's their legacy, it's kind of gone to dust, you know? That artistic element could be brought out in further exercises. So the goal on that is this wouldn't be a portion of the park that's funded through the city and the CIP, but it's going to be funded through, if there is interest from tribal organizations and if there are grants to make that to go forward. So this is kind of a icing on the cake, so to speak, moving forward. It's not a work plan that's specified by council at this point, but it's something that we can tease out further. Then moving in the future, there's the concept of the mound. Obviously, there's some fundraising that needs to happen from the River Action Bridge replica, first bridge project coming across, but how that might land, art installation at the terminus of 4th Street here with all these key view sheds and the winding path that explains what you see through these view sheds, like the Arsenal Clock Tower, the Colonel Davenport home, Quarters 1 on Rock Island Arsenal, and the Antoine Leclerc home, among others, is this interpretive switchback mound takes place from there. I guess that's supposed to say thank you, but that's another one of those glitches, I guess. So I don't know if there's any comments or any kind of
Zach, could you
feedback.
maybe go over what's in the CIP? I know that there was some funding there and what that covers of what you showed us.
Correct. I don't know if we want to, I have a budget preliminary of what that is, but the CIP earmarks specifically, earth moving, the cosmetic seawall repair is the big component of that. And that includes taking the existing rail up and then reinstalling it according to that. Earth moving to flatten out the Great Lawn feature and stacking up the rest of the dirt in preparation for the mound. Extension of the river walk, what I showed in the concept in the work plan.
How long enough to get through that second docking area?
Yes. So it's hard to see, and I apologize for that, but right here, the Riverwalk would be extended to roughly about hid there, where we'd have another temporary path alignment that would tie it back into the,
Okay,
because there's some nuances we still need to figure out about those grades heading into the future phase that at this point, it's not really worth committing to a permanent walk.
So it's not going to include anything on the enhancement of the entrance area there?
Yes, the enhancement of the entrance will be part of this as well.
Okay.
That's where we're shooting for, and that's where our budget might be tight. So if we have to let that one go for now, so be it.
and again, what was appropriated?
1 million.
1 million. Okay. Are there any other questions for Zach? Oh, yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
The Black Hawk War Memorial, can we drop war out of that? I mean, we have a war memorial at the other end of the other end, and there was a lot more to this history than just that Black Hawk War. And I know you have the Indian tribes will be involved in.
Yeah, and so
That,
I do have an answer for you on that, why it was
Okay.
called war in that. I have a friend of mine, is a professor of Native history at UW Platteville, and anything that's mentions like a treaty and concessions to a Native American is considered an insult. So there really needs to be better, I mean, war, I'm not happy with that name either, but there needs to be a better way of labeling that space.
well, yeah, I agree. We have to be careful because
Yes.
we stole the Indians' land
Yes.
under the treaty, and that's where the Black Hawk War.
Yep.
But, I mean, we could stress the whole history of the tribe and Black Hawk, because there's a lot more to him than just the war. That was the end of his lifetime.
Correct.
And there was a lot of there's a lot of Indian history.
I need to get out a thesaurus to find a better term for that, you know?
Well, just drop war out of it.
Yeah. Correct.
I think your work with the tribes should actually be quite broad.
Yeah,
see.
and perhaps there's a better way of describing that, because it needs to be honorable and celebrate an awesome legacy, quite honestly.
Okay, Bill, do you have a question?
There's an excellent book out right now by Chance. It traces, the creator, George Davenport, and it traces in great detail the history from the time George Davenport came here to way up to about 1860, something like that. It is a very, very excellent book and easy to read.
Is that a new book, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, I'll need to check that out.
Okay. Bill?
Yes, Zach, you mentioned the Great Lawn there, and that leveling will be a part of this $1 million. Will this, that you mentioned also like a track, would that be also included?
Just the walk will be an informal, just the existing paths would be a quarter mile in length. I don't think
So
there'd be.
that will be a functional area though that people could use within this next improvement area of
Correct.
$1 million.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And that was the idea, opening that space up to where you're not, like right now, it's just a pile of dirt with grass, and let's make it look great. What are your impressions of our area getting off a cruise boat? You know, you want to see a mound of scrubbed grass, you know?
Maybe.
So some nice greenery with people using it passively, you know, flying a kite or whatever, you
And
know?
what's the timeline on this again, for this $1 million?
It's under design right now, and construction anticipated this spring 2021.
Okay, so next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question, Debbie.
Okay, Bill, go
Yeah.
ahead.
The river wall is considered to be part of the lock and dam structure. And you had to go in and make repairs to that wall. And I know we've talked about in the past, but the Corps of Engineers, in my mind, should be responsible for the maintenance of that wall. How far did Davenport get in dealing with the Corps on the repairs that were required to the wall?
The dialogue that goes with the Corps of Engineers is, we agree with you 100%, but then they always come back to, we're just not funded. And, you know, there was some cosmetic repair that needed to happen underneath the government bridge where that wall is all eroded and you see the rebar. That was supposed to be part of the sewer project, nothing, because budget wasn't there. So that's probably a deeper discussion for representatives in, you know, state, federal government.
I don't have access to your construction estimate, but if it's a sizable number, I believe the city of Davenport ought to really go after the core, because there is no question in my mind that's part of the maintenance budget that Rock Island District gets for that wall. And if that's a sizable number that's worth going after, then by God, go after it.
It's gonna be 6 figures at least. Our estimates are about 150,000. I mean, the estimate you gave me was probably 1,000, but then that didn't factor in taking the existing rail and reinstalling it, so that's the figure we're shooting for right now.
Okay. Is that it? All right. Thank you, Zach. We can move on.
Thanks, everybody.
then.
Sorry about the difficulties.
Hopefully that'll be the last one. I'm going to turn it back now to Steve. You want to kind of give us an update on the strategic plan we're looking at?
Yeah, some good news here. We have scheduled the launch meeting, if you will, coming out of our meeting as a group last month. The stakeholder task force, we'll call it, River West Task Force, will convene on Thursday, September 3rd for its initial meeting. We're going to meet at the river's edge for a couple hours. It will be facilitated again by Kevin James with Quad City Consulting Group. And we will kind of go from there as far as the, the diverse, there's probably about 15, 16 folks representing everything from the commission to Parks Advisory Board, River Action, Nahant Marsh, the Scott County Watershed, the Corps, DNR. I've talked to a couple folks this week from DNR. All are very interested, and I'm excited about that. So I'm hopeful that, and I should have said, and some council members here, I'm looking right at you. And so I'm very excited that a nice, diverse stakeholder group will work diligently, hopefully for the next few months in a facilitated fashion. And the goal ultimately here, as we know, is to take this area from essentially Marquette Landing downstream to the city limits and do some freestyle visioning for this area about in increments ultimately of short, medium, and long-term ways, projects, and otherwise about how we can programmatically take advantage of this beautiful area. And so that will all finally begin and will take several months. My hope is that we'll have a product. I don't want to give an artificial timeline, but I'm hopeful within a few months from the beginning of that. So then I'm just going to continue if that's okay. Union Station, their interior and exterior, there's not really an update except for Visitors Center and I continue to work together. I mean, they're paying rent. They just aren't quite ready to be in there full time. But so we're working together on that, and the goal still is to be there very, very soon. We continue to look for a tenant on the second floor. I'm just going to make that pitch again. We'll lose that large space tenant here probably by the end of September. And so for the last 2 months almost, we've had it listed, and we continue to work with Thad and Hartog with Mel Foster to find a new suitor for that space. From an exterior standpoint, it will be very short order as this kind of blends with the next item with the Canadian Pacific crossings too, but Ripley Street is under construction, and that elevation, that grade has changed. And as soon as they finish with Ripley Street within the next few weeks, they will begin to move on the other side of Harrison Street. And so, this exterior piece is kind of still, not kind of, it is in the hands of FEMA. So we continue to wait to hear for a project, hopefully good news about something that we can work with them on a 75-25 local share setting that could both have flood mitigation, primarily flood mitigation aspects, but then we'll make use of this space now that the south side of Union Station is cut off from vehicular traffic. And so the idea is to make it connecting throughout this area for pedestrians. But it's upon us as far as the change. And my hope would be that we would get sometime by winter or through the winter the go-ahead so that that next construction season, I think we've thought this all along, but that thumbs up happens to allow us the time in 2021 construction season to make this happen. So more as I learn more, but that is underway. I'll just then continue with the crossing business since I opened that door. There's some success going on here. There's some movement, I should say. I mean, Marquette is finished. It's one of the first crossings, is presentable, looks nice. As Zach alluded to, River Heritage Park entrance, for example, is underway and just started basically yesterday. Is to take about a month. And I've been in touch with the American Cruise Lines. They can, with COVID and all, they've kind of backed up or delayed canceled some of their, part of their season, but have not canceled the entirety. And so the first ones are basically to be here, if it doesn't change by the end of September. They know that if this entrance isn't quite open, that we're at Oneida, which is also under construction for right now, but that's only a couple of weeks. The likelihood of American even backing that up, frankly, into October, and then maybe by that time, it's just, 2021. I'm not sure. We just keep getting the announcements pushing some of this season back. 2021, for sure, will be at River Heritage Park. And of course, what Zach just presented for 2021 construction season will be finished by time we get to 2022. And we expect Viking as well as American to be docking at River Heritage Park. Little tangent there, but back to the Canadian Pacific. Ripley Street has been since June 29th has been under construction. You can see progress being made. The businesses that occupy the area, Freight House in particular, and Union Station, are very excited about having that reopened, as am I. It's been a long time, and there's a lot of work being done, and a lot of people are being patient with necessary work, but it still is felt. And so one of the things that's taking a little bit more time on Ripley Street is it's being replaced with brick as we wanted it to be. And so that is very interesting to watch because it's very time consuming to lay each of those by hand. Slow progress as it goes on. But I think we're a couple weeks away. I don't think it'll be all the way to the end of September like what we've been told originally, but I don't know. Sometimes the brick lane seems to take a little longer each day. So once that's completed, we can open up that entranceway, and that will help things out in the neighborhood quite a bit. Then they will move on to Harrison. They're not just doing one at a time, by the way. Main Street's under construction, and I think they finished Brady, the new reconfiguration there. And so there's lots of progress going on. I'm just hopeful that we continue. So any questions? One other thing about that, I'm working with Canadian Pacific through their contractor about relocation, or at least a monetary recognition for the relocation, the necessary relocation of the dumpster. We talked early on about this, but it's becoming very relevant, and we plan, just so you all know, to relocate that dumpster function from its place on the upstream side at Union Station over into the Freight House parking lot, because if you haven't been there recently, because of the grade change, that entrance, obviously on the south side, we've talked about Union Station, but also the southmost entrance into the Freight House are gone, are removed, and a wider egress into the Freight House is the result, which allows us to situate a new dumpster with the enclosure into that lot, and look like it kind of belongs there best we can, but it obviously is necessary because of lack of access where it currently is. And so just had that conversation with a representative on Friday, and we will hear it's going to have to happen one way or the other, but I see it as I mean, this wouldn't be happening if not for the change in grade, so it seems only fair to at least accept a check of the amount that we paid for the enclosure, which just was a couple years ago, and in the CIP, to be able to make this happen and make this whole. I think in consideration of time and all that, I don't really think I have anything else to speak of tonight.
Yeah, Steve.
Sure.
I'm assuming the raising of the bike trail is not in the works this year.
Oh, no, it is. That's all part of what they're working on, and you can definitely tell that things have been elevated. To be honest, looks really good, I think. I mean, it looks like it matches, it connects, and they're rebuilding in the area, in that particular area between Harrison and essentially Ripley. Beiderbecke is being totally redone and needed to be. And so that's helpful not only for the driving and walking public, but events that are held down there, use that area for staging the concessions and all of that. I mean, that rebuilt area is gonna, Zach was involved in that. Many of us were working with CP to envision a better look, and it's all been brought up. And so it is my understanding still, Bill, that they want to be done by winter. I mean, all of it.
Good, awesome.
And that's a really good thing, given what sometimes happens around here in the spring. I'm sorry?
Those were the projects. Is that your staff report too,
Yes,
Steve?
essentially. Thanks for that reminder. In all of this, there are some really good positives going on too. I mean, I don't want to ever convey differently, and you all need to be aware of that, especially as it relates to the Riverfront. Upcoming in a couple weeks, both Labor Day weekend and the weekend to follow are, some two envisioned large events. A Festival of Praise event, Labor Day weekend in LeClaire Park, as well as Pop's concert. And so city's working diligently with these event organizers to ensure, a safe access. It's going to look a little different. It's not going to be completed, and it's not going to be the prettiest it's ever looked. That's all a given. But given this year of what's been going on and COVID issues as well, decisions have been made for these, at least, these couple events. And I'll tell you, I'm aware of a few other events that are beginning to pick up, all before everyone gets, out of sorts, all with special, all the COVID social distancing intact and in mind, and all, this is part of us. And so these events, whether they be in Centennial Park or whatever, are all attempting to come through the process. We're beginning to see a bit of an uptick in some of that. And I already feel that next year, 2021, with all of this behind us, the 1930 sewer interceptor project and the rail crossings, to Bill's point about finishing up in the timeline, I think next year is going to be a very robust year as it relates to programming of the Riverfront. And I think that's a real positive. We just got to get through this year.
Okay. All right. Michael, do you have something to share with us?
I think that's prophetic. We just got to get through this year.
You want to,
You want,
yeah, you're not
You wanna
mic'd,
come
though,
up
so
to
we
the
gotta- we gotta
podium?
just have you mic. Just come up to the podium. Yeah,
sorry,
no.
no. We can hear, but we gotta have people on the phone to hear you too.
The only thing Parks had was a figure which had around 1,200 trees were destroyed or damaged in the wind. And driving around, it looks like they've done working, getting that really cleaned up. Now that's Parks, you know, there's much more of that in the city, but around at least 1,000, 1,200 trees damaged in the park. So that was quite unexpected, but maybe it'll clean it out some too and make it nice looking too. So that's kept him busy, and that's all he had.
Yeah, I saw it on Credit Island. You could, it's sad. Those big ones coming down is sad.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Michael. I guess that brings us down to other business. I know Bill handled, you wanted to do a presentation for us, so would you like to come to the podium? Here, let me unmute you.
Should I guess, at the podium, thanks. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Steve, thanks for. Oh. Okay, this is just for the advance? Backwards, forwards. Okay, great. Okay, all right.
So Bill, maybe while he's putting that up, why don't you just speak to some of us who are new on the commission, kind of.
Sure. So yes, I'm some of you may know I'm a retired architect. I grew up in Davenport. Much of my career was working as a associate architect, where the firm in Houston that I was working with U.S. Probably very prominent architects in the U.S. We were their local architect for Gerald Hines doing different projects. So I was used to working as a very lowly role, backing up these large firms like Philip Johnson and IMP. So but as later in my career, I was doing renovations, and what I started out with on that was very useful. I ended up being a really renovation architect. It became my specialty. And so my idea is our Riverfront in Davenport renovation is one of the things that I think we need to be thinking about, being respectful of what came before us, thinking in the future about what's going to happen. And I don't know if, okay. So anyway, our Riverfront, 100 years old. Bill Peterson was the initial spark to create that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's start here. Venice. Many of the things that people like in Venice, it's called the living room of the world or of Europe. Art. It has an openness to the sea. It's been going for 1,000 years, and over a period of time, it's got better and better to what we see today. So there's no reason why we can't kind of think about what spawned Venice and what elements in that can be brought to us in the United States with our 150-year-old cities. Next, Steve. Are you able to advance? Oh, I'm sorry, sure, yep. Okay, so Cincinnati, city, kind of the Davenport's big brother, lots of German immigrants. This is from about, I guess, the 20s. Has a lot of the same elements that we have. They've got a south-facing, slightly south traveling Ohio River, riverboats. They have their warehouse buildings behind there, office buildings in the distance, beautiful bridge. They've got their brick beach going directly out to the river, like we used to have until the 1950s. So let's go look very briefly at our riverfront. Obviously, many of you know more about it than I do. Some of you may know less, but we'll see. This is Bill Peterson, Peterson Department Store. He and his wife traveled to Europe in around 1910, came back thinking Davenport's Riverfront, what can we do to bring a little bit of Europe to Davenport? And it was successful, and we're still, 100 years and more later, we're still enjoying the benefit of his foresight. This is what we had around the 1920s. We had buildings to the left. Those are Lago Marcinos is one of them. They were buildings to serve the warehouse needs coming off both the railroads and the steamboats. Of course, it became a parking lot. I think it was very appropriate. You could consider that the river has such a pull that it's essentially pulling down the plane of the brick toward it, and it's a very strong image, I think. This is Davenport's Riverfront, packet boat up to Clinton. Of course, we always had the Quinlan, tying our cities to the Rock Island and Davenport cities together. Joined by a river. I don't know if that's Kathy Wine's slogan or not. It's what she uses now. It's something I haven't heard that much lately, but I think it's something that we need to not lose sight of. And this riverboat tied both Davenport and Rock Island together. This is from the Rock Island side looking toward Davenport. Some of the great cities of Europe, Budapest, the Danube going through it, both sides are Budapest. I mean, why not, except for the fact that we've got two different states? Why don't we consider our two downtowns, really, really integral to each other? We've also got Dillon Fountain and the newer addition, the Sky Bridge. Peterson Pavilion, which Bill Peterson, I guess, was instrumental in getting happen. It was in homage to his late daughter. I don't know if she died in the pandemic in 1918 or not, but it would be something to look at. But it's art. Our riverfront is art. But this is a building that hasn't been used for concessions for, I don't know, 30 years or more. Beautifully done. Robert Clausen, Fritz Clausen's son, was the architect. It's still hanging in here. One time we had what was the municipal natatorium. What's more appropriate than having a pool right next to the river? But it was torn down to have more parking, probably in the early 70s. And of course, here's our beautiful riverfront. When Bill Peterson left us in 1925, the beautiful bridge wasn't there, the ballpark wasn't there, but they're complementary to it, and now we wouldn't know what to say if they weren't there. This is R.J. Clausen. I guess he needs to get a little bit of credit occasionally. One of the rolls of drawings right there was the Davenport Levee Improvement Commission. Let's go briefly, simplicity. We'll see the plan that RDJ came up with is very complex, and to my way of thinking, does not play well with the things that were put in 100 years ago on our riverfront. Simplicity is complexity resolved. Look at the beautiful Figgy. Very simple, many elements to it, and there's much more behind it than you can see, but due to the talents of David Chipperfield, what you're presented with is a very simple expression. Oops, let's see, did that, up. Okay, again, the Figgy, it's almost like a glacier, in my view, on its concrete plinth, right in front of our riverfront. It disappears, it reflects our masonry buildings of our downtown, and it doesn't mock them, it reflects them, and it's stunningly beautiful. River Vision 2004, I think was quite appropriate. You can see it's got the ferry boats, fountains tying our two downtowns together. It's got rooms, very simple, kind of like Washington DC, I guess. Very, very simple elements. And it was done by Hargraves Associates, which is a nationally known firm. I visited Chattanooga, Tennessee, for example. My girlfriend, Jo Helen, and I have visited it 3 or 4 times over the last 5 years. Very beautiful city, and I think we have something we could learn from Chattanooga. This is the update on River Vision. Of course, it showed, I guess, well, over there to the right, what was the Rothheisen restaurant complex. But again, very, very simple, all rectilinear. There's not a curve to be seen there. Skybridge Plaza, and again, you can see the extension of the Sky Bridge going metaphorically all the way to Rock Island. You know, in your mind, you're going to Rock Island, and I think that's very strong. Davenport from Rock Island, it's where Davenport, I think, looks the best from Rock Island. In fact, if I were in the Davenport Chamber and I wanted to show an out-of-town company wanting to relocate to Davenport, I'd stop at the Rock Island Riverfront. We'd take a boat all the way to Davenport, and then go into the Sky Bridge and go up and then over to the Figgy. But let's look at the water itself. The water in the river it's not, you know, white caps. It doesn't go up and down. It's very, very linear, and I think that's what Hargraves' design had. On the contrary, RDJ's design calls the river turbulent and very complicated, and they're using this as an image for the water of the river. No, the river flows. It goes linearly, just like parallel lines. It doesn't go like this. I don't know if the artist Dahlquist has really sat down to think about how a river actually flows. I won't spend any more time. He's talking undulating currents. He calls it building on the previous studies, but in my view, he's discarded River Vision 2004 and 2014, come up with something entirely different. And I think we need to. This is a plan that was come up with all these very curvy elements, including a building at the end of the Sky Bridge. This is not the one I wanted to show, but I wanted to show the RDG plan. This is one that staff had come up with. But anyway, let's look at the Rock Island flood control structure. This is, I think, what we all want to avoid. It provides protection from the water, from floods, but you're, you know, tens of perhaps 100 feet away from the water itself. Right now, you can go to the edge of the guardrail and you know, 10 feet away is the water. Unattractive. Another view. This is what we want to avoid. But however, if you look at the RDG plan, what they have is not much different than that, except it's $10 million for 2.5 blocks. I think we need to really look with, you know, askance at this design. It in every event keeps you away from water. You know, there's not crashing waves or white caps on the Mississippi River. Why would anyone do this? Also, again, the river is linear, and these curves, I think, are just artificial, and we don't have it, for example, at River Heritage Park. Why should we have it here? These boxy elements, kind of like overgrown bus shelters, all they do, and the plinth that they sit on, it blocks the views up and down the river, and I don't think they should be considered. However, I do think art has a very important part in our riverfront. In fact, that was the whole reason for having RDJ come up with the design, was to integrate art with our riverfront. And of course, this is Anish Kapoor's Cloud Gate in Chicago, the Bean. This is art. This is true art. It was reflective of the lakefront in Chicago. It's a piece of art sitting on a plaza. I can't go into it now, but what Dahlquist came up with was this giant ziggurat, perhaps 30 feet tall, with a piece of art or a sculpture plunked into one corner. I don't think that's what we want to have in Davenport. Because again, art is, as the saying goes, art is long, life is short. And any architect would learn something by taking a look at this picture. About 1964, circa, when the Arch and Busch Stadium were going up at the same time. The Arch will probably be here for another 500 years if we're lucky, and Busch Stadium didn't even last for 50 years. So, again, this is our history, and I think this can be our future. At least a part of it can. The brick beach, intimacy with the river, and I'd like to see artwork integrated with it, and I'll have some other ideas in the future. This is what we're building our future on, which is Bill Peterson's Riverfront. Virtually everything you see right there of Bill Peterson's River's Edge was going to be demolished in the RDG plan. So again, is this what we want or not? I don't think so, but thanks very much. This handout was something I wasn't able to incorporate in the PowerPoint because it was a PDF and I wasn't talented enough to incorporate it, but it's a design idea sketch that RDG came up with. And again, I feel that all the curvy forms in this don't play well with what Peterson came up with and we've been enjoying for 120 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill, for sharing your opinion. I think that we've heard it in glimpses at other meetings, and it's duly noted that you have no appreciation for the RDG plan. And so we'll take note of that, and thank you again for giving us your opinion. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the commission? With that, I guess we can adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
And we're all adjourned. Thank you.